Where did we leave off? Okay, let me see. Did we go over this? We went over this? Yeah, but all of them are in public. No, it wasn't publisher. No, all of them should be converted to PDF. Yeah, all of this, I just didn't have it on me, but it was converted. Did we go over this one? Okay. Okay, well then let's go ahead and move forward. So we were talking about the nature final forces, and we were talking about uh, the Tavic rays in relationship to the nature final forces. And I think I explained to you all that the Tavic forces are just a pattern of um, a pattern of the energy flow that's coming from everyone. That's coming from all the various forces. So let's look at this. Let's look at something we talked about. We talked about the main. We talked about the 360 Tavic rays coming from the sun, and those 360 Tavic rays correlate with the 360 degrees of the Earth, and some of these rays are about 136 of these rays influence and modified by the moon. Another 118 of these rays are influenced and modified by the Earth, and 106 of these Tavic rays come directly from the sun to the Earth, uh, recipients. So just to understand that, so these Tavic rays, as we said in the various diagrams we showed everyone, that they are a combination of several different sources of energy. And let's see if we can find that so we can talk about it.
We did that one.
Yeah, this shows the sources of energy that make up the Tavic rays. coming from the sun, and then how those tatvas rays are used. Let's see. So on a major level, you have the Nata Shakti, the Shakti, the Shakti principles, the Mahabhutas, and then you have which the Shakti principles is the Nani, the Chitta, the Nani meaning the intelligent components to the flow of energy. The Chitta is the mind, field the energy flows through, which holds the energy together. The prana is the pure power or shakti within the energy flow, and amana is the preservative energy within the energy flow. So we talked about this, and when you add all this up, all of this goes into the elements. It creates the foundation for the cosmic elements of the universe, which 5 major cosmic elements I talked about, and that's akasa, vayu, taijas, apas, and paritis, which we talked extensively about a couple of weeks ago. Akasa being the etheric sound. God spoke the word, or Shiva spoke the word, and then there you have creation. Well, it was an etheric sound, which is a carrying agent of the bhutas, and it is the nata of the shakti, and that creates space and manifests creative forces, or conduit for the creative forces. And then you have the vaya, which is the etheric air creating motion. This is a locomotion power that pushes the energy through, creating waves of speed. Then you have the taijas, which is the etheric fire, light, expansion quality of the flow of energy, and it transference of subtle power between the various substance or elements. Then you have the apas, which is the cooling effect, or where it contracts or pulls things together. It's the etheric liquid, creating a cooling effect that pervades all visible and invisible creation. And then you have the etheric solids, creating contraction of all cosmic elements and subtle energies to manifest solid, subtle, and gross matter. So, and all of this adds up to be the tatvas rays. Of course, in the tatvas rays, it manifests itself. It keeps modifying itself. The Shakti power keeps modifying itself into different parts. When you get to the Earth with the tatvas rays, you have the planetary Nautic flow of energies. You have the 49 planetary vortex centers that produce multiple layers of rims, which is nothing but the chakras of the Earth, which leads to multiple levels of consciousness on the mineral, plant, animal, human levels of the mental, subtle, and gross levels of existence. We can look at our physical body, like we went into, and we can look at the chakra petals. We can look at the manas, which is the mental energy in the body, the kundalini, which is the energy for the soul's vehicles of consciousness, because without kundalini, you cannot have consciousness. You can look at the Naughties, a flow of energy projected from the power of kundalini, and then you can look at the Naughty knots, which the Naughties are threaded through the petals, activating the chakras, on that level of existence for those for that flow of mental consciousness and energy. And you can look at the five minor pranas, the ojas, and the seven datas of the subtle body tissues. So all of this makes up our existence, and we can describe this as tavic patterns or tavic rays, and that's what the tavics are. The tatvas are. So, any questions?
Nothing yet.
So let's move on. So to better understand this, we can move to, let me see. We can go into to look at the makeup of man once again. And did we go over this last week? We went over this chart.
What's the next one? Four states of sound, yeah.
So let's look at this again. Can that be seen, or should I blow in?
You could zoom in a bit. Easier to see. Yeah, that's better.
So here we have the spirit. The spirit of man is the real you. It's that part of you that's connected to the absolute, to God, to Shiva. It is that part that is has no reason to move, has no reason to do anything but be itself, because it is connected to the all, and it has a perspective of the all. So if we look at this, we have this thing which is complete silence, complete stillness, complete darkness with absolute potential. It is the background of manifested and endless potential, which act as a source and substance for all manifested creation. It is the all knowledge space. That's what the spirit is. And this spirit produces a soul in order to travel through the manifested world, because the spirit exists in the unmanifested existence, meaning that it was always there. It never had a reason to manifest because it was always there, which is hard to have. It's hard for us to wrap this around our mind because of our limited state of existence. So, the spirit creates or manifests the soul, and then the soul moves through cycles. It moves through the manifested existence, creating cycles of existence for its lower self. But it has to create a lower self. Because in the manifested world, the soul is the highest self. So when you look at the soul, when you look at the manifested world, the soul is that traveling body for the spirit in limited consciousness, in a sense. And we look at this chart, we look at the different layers that the soul creates for itself. The subtle magnetic layers of the auric body, because the auric body becomes the soul's body. It's the first body that the soul creates for itself, which is the auric body. And the auric body is essentially indestructible. Then the auric body creates a nata auric layer, which helps to push the creative sound through. Thank you. Through the auric body to allow it to manipulate subtle, mental, subtle, and gross matters. So we'll get into nata later, because nata is a powerful energy source of shakti. And nata, and then you have the mental auric bodies, the pranic auric bodies, or pranic auric layers. Then you have the etheric auric layer, the aster auric layer, the bone and bone marrow auric layer, the blood tissue organs auric layer, the physical body and expression points of auric layer. And you have all these layers that the auric body has to work on different things. At the same time, the psychic centers, the auric body connects to the chakras, the universal chakras of this earth and the solar system, which animates this auric layer of consciousness in order to carry out various cycles of life within this auric sphere. And then you have the cycles begin, whether it's on the physical plane or the mental planes or the astral planes or the etheric planes. And all of these are nothing but patterns of Tavic rays. Dr. George King said back in the 50s to a group of mystics, he said that everything is solidified, what? Sunlight, which means that everything is Tavic rays. That's what it really means. If we was to look at this on a total, on a mystic or yogic level. So when you look at this also, this chart, it shows you the impurities embedded in the auric body. This happened over time, over eons of reincarnation, that we pick up certain traits, negative traits from the lower chakras. And the lower chakras are not as strong as the upper chakras, although the lower chakras are very strong, it has great capacity. But it's an extension of the higher chakras. So therefore, it doesn't operate at the same levels as the higher chakras. And it capsulate or formulate certain patterns and filter them from going up into the higher chakras, and allow the consciousness to work through these impurities in order to have almost like a barrier against these lower traits, in other words. Because once you conquer it, then you have the anti-venom to not allow it to happen again. And for instance, if you know the pain of fire when it touches the skin, then you would never go to stick your hand in the fire again because you have a mental pattern within your auric field that teaches you to stay away from that. So that's what I mean. So that's that's what this is. It's very simple to understand when you look at it. Any other questions on this before we move on?
No questions.
So when you look more into this, what do you see? Did we go over this part last time?
No.
Okay. When you look more into this, you this is going back into the makeup of consciousness, the makeup of man, and we're talking about the creative sound. And when the auric body was formed, and it needed to lock the consciousness into lock a basic consciousness into the auric body in order to formulate a physical, the three main physical vehicles of bodies, which is the physical body, the astral body, and the etheric body. It had to take the Kundalini power or the Shakti power and push it down into the base of the spine, and knowing that at that point it will move into a 3.5 knot, which we call Kundalini, 3.5 energy configuration. And then once it gets there, it will release a sound, a creative sound. And when it releases this creative sound, this sound creates or modifies into 4 different states of sound. And those states of sound, those creative states of sound, helps to lock the consciousness into the body as a basic consciousness. And this chart goes over that basic consciousness. At the parasound level, which I really don't want to go through all this, but at the parasound level, it's a motionless level. It's a soundless sound. The next level is first movement, transference of power to a new level of operation. And it's a major intake and exchange of transference of power. Then at the third level of this is where the formation of the subtle bodies happen. And the fourth and final level of this sound is where the sound, the soundless sound becomes audible sound or gross sound, and also the physical body is formed, and the consciousness for the physical body is formed. And that's at the throat level. So, and all this is ancient information, just translated for modern times.
Are the 4 states of sound levels of consciousness for the soul?
Yeah, for the basic consciousness.
The basic consciousness of the soul or of the bodies?
For the soul, well, the soul is the orchestrator of all of this.
Mm-hmm.
So the soul is manipulating this to so that this energy of Kundalini can work as a vehicle of consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Any other questions?
This it's a bit off topic, but could you please help me understand how chakras have the colors that they do?
This simple. It's the pattern in which it formulates. I mean, that's is where the energy flow breaks into the electronic magnetic spectrum. The simple answer. You know, we have these. We talking about Tavic rays. We talking about rays that's flowing. Tavic rays is actually solar plasma coming from the sun. And that solar plasma, according to the ancient teachings, had a it was rays of the sun, and it had a pattern. It had a specific pattern. In fact, you can even plot some of the patterns vaguely or not even vaguely, almost precisely on a particular level through numerology or astrology. I like numerology. Numerology is, in my mind, is more concrete than astrology, simply because we haven't rediscovered astrology yet. There's a lot of missing pieces to astrology from my study from 15, 20 years ago. It might be wrong now, maybe it's out now. But 15, 20 some years ago, when I did study astrology, I noticed a lot of missing pieces. But numerology, you can plot the pattern of the Tavic rays, because we are a resort of the Tavic rays. So if you study any numerology, what you're doing is plotting the energy flow and patterns of a Tavic of a ray. When I say the electronic magnetic spectrum, the sun have a series of rays. Those rays produce certain colors. When the colors are all together, it's seen to be white. When you split the colors, you see an array of colors. So where the color of where the basic chakra, the root chakra, the base of the spine chakra, breaks into the electronic magnetic spectrum, it produces various colors of red. Where the sex chakra breaks into the Tavic rays, it produces various colors of orange. The same with the solar plexus center, it produces a yellow array of colors, and the heart chakra produces an array of green, and the throat chakra produces an array of blue colors, and the Andhra chakra or Christ chakra produces this violet color of rays, and the crown chakra produces a brilliant white, sometime golden color of rays. So it's where it breaks into the electronic magnetic spectrum of the sun. That's why it produces colors. Remember, the chakras are vortex centers and frequencies of energy. And that's been said for thousands of years, too. We're just translating it so that we can understand it in our time. Any other questions?
Nope.
I'll send this chart out. If anyone wants it, just email me, and I'll send it to you. I think I just went over all of this. This is just going into a detail. We talked about how the soul took the Shakti power and pushed it down through Shushana, or the Brahmanati within Shushana, and produced the power of Kundalini. So, okay. So I don't think I need to go over this because I just went over it. Any other questions?
How is it that crystals affect the chakras?
Um, I wouldn't say the crystal affect the chakras. I wouldn't say that. I would say that um, that that you can manipulate energies coming from the chakras and going into the chakras by using crystals and mantra. I would say that. So you can manipulate energies better using crystals or certain elements with the proper mantra or a strong wave of concentrated mental energy to almost to the level of contemplation. So, and I caution that because most people, they get on the New Age bandwagon and just start pulling out crystals and waving it, and when really there's a real true technique to manipulating the energies. And any real mystic would know this. It's not just me talking. So, and anyone with any slight psychic vision, they can see when they use a technique versus a non-technique. They can see the flow and the alignment of the energies. And when you hold a crystal in the hand and you vibrate that crystal through using a mantra, they can see how the energy lines up and how it responds to mental commands quicker. Okay, let's go to the next chart. Do you have these charts? You have this chart, right?
No,
You sure I didn't send this to you?
unless they were in the email you sent out last week.
Okay, so we get these charts to everyone who asks for them. I kind of talked about this. I didn't go into as much detail as I went into here on this fourth chart. Do I need to blow it up anymore? That's just, they can see that, right?
Yeah.
So this is the endless potential here on this side, the Shiva, the Vak, the Nata Shakti. All these are modifications of potential power that's in the unmanifested world. In other words, it means that this energy was always there. It was there with the spirit, with the absolute. So you have the Shiva, the Vak, the Nata Shakti, the principal Shakti, which are Nani, Cheta, Prana, Amana. Then you have Akasa, Vaya, taijas, and just keeps going on. You have all these different patterns. And this is just a small these just a small number because the patterns actually go into hundreds of thousands of patterns that's created, there's lies and potential waiting for us to use it. And then just shows how these energy patterns help to um, help to create our existence. Okay? So we'll send this chart to you.
Is it possible to tap directly into the absolute without any intermediary?
Well, of course it's possible because we are, the spirit is, part of the absolute. Your divine spark of God is spirit within you, and it's connected to the absolute. So at the right time, the right, everything lines up, of course you can do that. But there's a way to do it now. And one of the ways to do it now is through meditation. It's through the manipulation of preservation energy, which is love energy. Because love energy pulls on itself, meaning that it reaches into potential and pull it back out to be used. And so in your meditations and being able to contemplate and meditate, you can tap into the original potential. But lo and behold, the weight, the karmic weight of the universe rests on you in doing that, because you have to do the right thing, or you could set yourself back lifetimes, So that's the difference. It's just like in the mystic in the mystic ceremonial ritual, using a combination of tantric things in order to bring a diva in your presence, a diva of a storm in your presence. Let's say a big giant hurricane or tornado or whatever is getting ready to rip up a whole town or whatever, and an adept who can manipulate the proper energy and who can call on the diva of that storm, that adept at that time, the weight of karma to do that is very, very heavy. So the adept cannot make a mistake, absolutely cannot make a mistake. And if the adept does make a mistake, then the balancing of that is that he loses his or her physical life. The physical life that they're living at that particular time is the equation to correct that. So his wishes is done, but he cannot exist on the physical plane anymore. He had to be reincarnated on the astral or etheric realms, and then wait for reincarnation to the physical realms at the appropriate karmic time. So that's how dangerous it is to manipulate these energies at times, And I think the treatise on cosmic fire by Alice Bailey in the Tibetan talks about that a little bit, and talks about these type of tantric rituals that where you control the weather at or the elements around you. There's a karmic weight connected to it, so you cannot make a mistake. So that's why you have to be able to at least have a deep state of meditation or samadhi, and be able to do it, manipulate the energies at the same time.
I understood it that we use the expression bathed in the light of the spirit because we will never touch that source until we are much, much further along in our evolution.
Right.
So that made me wonder, okay, well, we won't be able to actually get close to truth spirit until we're at least not in this form right now.
So what are you getting at?
That's the reason my question is could we make direct contact with the absolute at present, or without any form of intermediary, or would it have to wait until, or that's not possible until we're much further along?
Yeah, well, when you bathe in the light of the spirit, that's the soul being bathed in the light of the spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? But you are spirit at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So, but you cannot experience spirit because of your, although you can experience spirit, but you cannot experience spirit in true consciousness or true awareness
Mm-hmm.
because of the state of evolution that you have placed yourself in the manifested world. Does that explain it a little bit better?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions?
Uh, Queen of Hearts, this question will probably be best addressed in an email, but I'm going to read it anyway. So, what are your thoughts on reincarnation? Do hell and heaven exist? She says, my boyfriend follows Islam. I would like to explain all of this to him in simple words. How did the ancients discover these things?
In simple terminology, using metaphysics, I can probably explain it to you real quick, but he may not accept it. See, we have a chart on that, right?
Yeah, life after death chart.
Yeah, but we don't need to go that deep into it, but
Or the cycles of reincarnation chart.
yeah, we have a cycles of reincarnation chart, but just a chart on the chakras to show the different layers.
Oh.
That's a simple explanation. She asked for a simple explanation. Let's give it to her. Let me see if I can find it first. It's called the 7 upper and 7 lower, right?
Yeah, the realms of.
There's one on Facebook, isn't it?
There should be. I remember seeing it several times.
Let's look at that. Here you have right here. This is a simple one. The one on the thing is more colorful. This is oh shoot, what did I do?
Did you rotate it?
I don't know what I did. Did I?
Rotate view.
Here. Now, can they see this?
Yeah, they can see it.
Okay, so here you have uh, the 7 upper chakras and the 7 lower chakras. Now, the 7 lower chakras, the 7 higher chakras start from the base of the spine up. And the 7 lower chakras start from the hips all the way down to the feet. What is this telling you? These are the so-called 7 hells and 7 heavens. That's what this is. And as I talked to you about how the Tatvas rays come into the earth, and it creates, and each ray creates a realm of existence. Well, when you group these rays, you at the base of the spine, you have so many physical realms of existence and so many astral realms of existence. And it's like that with every realm. Below the spine, you have so many physical realms of existence and so many astral realms of existence. In the physical realms of existence is shared by animal and lower man, and by the astral hells, so-called hells. On the lower hells exists in a different frequency of mind and physical matter, but it exists. It's just like this world. It has trees, animals, air, mountains, water, houses, roads, vehicles of transportation. All is the same thing, but it's the lower hells. And you live there until it's comically time for you to leave there and come here to further your development. But the thing about the lower hills, there's people just like you there if you happen to go there, which a large population of the world do go there. The largest population of the world, if we look at the astral, etheric, and physical existence, a large population of the world exists in the lower realms of Earth, which some people call the lower hells. And a smaller population live in the upper chakras, in the lower heavens and higher heavens. So that's what it is. And then the principles for going to the lower heavens and higher heavens is by doing good, by being of service. The sun serves us 24/7, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days. The earth does the same thing. These are great living beings, God-like living beings. So we must aspire to be like them, to give service to everyone. And that allows us to grow and develop and become good people, good intelligence. So that's the difference between when you don't do that, you end up going to the lower hells until you could do better. To reinforce you doing better. So it's not God condemning you or setting you up to go to hell or heaven. It's you setting yourself up to go to heaven. God gave us all the examples around us. Anything that gives of itself seems to last a long time, and those things that don't seem to perish and move and modify and change. Reality is something that is unchangeable. So those things, that the closer we get to reality, the closer we will be able to sustain ourselves for long periods of time. So which is the big difference. And it takes a lot to really understand that. You can't understand that on a basic level. You can't say, well, I know a lot of good people that died earlier. No, you know a lot of good people that sustained themselves far beyond their existence here on Earth, simply because it's rare to have good people around. Because here we elevate the mass murderers. We someone who go out to not saying that when they did the mass murder it was totally wrong, but leaders that formed the army and went and killed hundreds of thousands of people. We hold them up and say great things about them, and overlook the catastrophe that they did to regions of the world. And that's a sickness. That's something that this world have to stop doing so much. I know sometimes you need a corrective path, but we need to find a more peaceful way to correct the path and not use so much violence and destruction. So that's why most of the population is in hell, is in the lower hells. One of the commandments in all religions is do not kill. So I hope that helped you a little bit. And I can send you, if you email me through our email, I can send you the different charts and literature on this, on life after death, life beyond death, and then understanding these things a little bit better. Okay, let's push on. We still have time, or we?
We still have time.
Okay. How long we been on?
Well, it says an hour and 2 minutes.
Okay. Okay, the next chart, I think we kind of went over this, so I can move on, but maybe I highlight some of the things here. This is understanding the mental and vital energies of the chakras and the trigger points. And I don't think we talked about the trigger points. So.
Not in this class, but everything on this chart we've touched in different classes.
Yeah. So here I want to go over this. You have the type of chakras you have. You have major chakras, you have minor chakras, and you have minute chakras. The number of chakras known to be in the body is 108 chakras. This is interesting too, because you'll find that in several different religions, you have the mala beads in the Hindu and the Buddhist, and there are 108 beads. In the Catholic Church and Christian churches that use the rosaries, there are 108 beads, and these beads are used to pray with. So the original way of chanting a mantra for long periods of time, you chant the mantra 108 times, and then you start over, meaning that you place that mantra, that sound vibration, on each chakra within the body in order to bring about a balance in the body. And when you pray, you pray 108 times in each session in order to pray, in order to place that prayer on all 108 chakras, meaning that you placing it on all 108 levels of your consciousness. That's what it actually means. So, so that and that has lasted throughout the thousands and thousands and thousands of years it's been around. Because, of course, the Hindus and even the people before the Hindus was using this method. And the Hindus, when you talk about the Hindus, or the African religions, the Hindu religion, the Buddhist religion, and the Jewish religions and the Christian religion, you'll find that each one of those religions have something like this, the 108 prayers, and of course it had to been transferred from the older religions to the newer religions, and the older religions being the African and Hindu religions, or in Asian religions, which was transferred over to today religions of Judaism and Christianity and even Islam. Islam is not an old religion. But the African religions and the Hindu religions are old. The Asian religions are hundreds of thousands of years old. The African, Asian, and Hindu religions. So it's very interesting to have that. Also, you have three major types of three types of Naughties. You have the Pingala Nati, which is a positive flow of energy. The Ida Nati, which is a mental flow of energy going through the body. And you have the Shushunda Nati, which is negative and positive energy flowing in a balanced fashion, which is basically the spinal column region within the body, and which is a neutral energy because of that. And then you have at least 142,000 Nadi pathways within the auric and subtle bodies. Now, I want you to know that. Now, the trigger, this going into a whole new thing, but it's part of this whole pattern and manipulation of energy and the Tatvas rays. You have your hand is a trigger for manipulating these energies. And I want to say your hand, your arms, your leg, and your head are trigger points for manipulating this energy. And so that you know, and this chart shows you this, and we can go into this next week, so you can have a better understanding of that. Any questions?
What, speaking about prana, which is the topic of today's lecture, can you speak about the Amrit process and which stage of spiritual development it represents?
The what process?
A-M-R-I-T, Amrit. I'm not sure what that is.
Ask them what they mean by that.
Elena, can you explain what Amrit, what you mean by that? Another question is, what is the role of the pineal and pituitary glands and the glands that are concerned with each chakra?
In the basic uh, understanding of psychic, everybody like talking about the pineal gland and all this. I'm not one that's I'm not one that advocates that or even go to look into it. It may have some significance. I don't think it has much significance. Uh, if you follow me, and there's over what 400 videos online, I go deep, deep into the flow of energy and how energy works. And if you study that and don't take my word, research it as so, under the light of how I present it, and you won't bring up the pituitary or pituitary gland or whatever. You wouldn't bring that up because you'll see that this subtle energy flow works on its own, and it's just it takes certain techniques, certain yogic, mental, physical type techniques in order to control this energy and manipulate this energy and make this energy work for you, because you control a vast amount of energy within your auric fields. And the yogic teachings and many other teachings that even may make up the yogic teachings over time have given us the keys to making all this work. So we'll go over this next week. We'll talk about the Devic Kingdom, and the Devic Kingdom relates to the Tatvas rays. It relates to the Tatvas ray. You have 360 Tatvas rays that flow from the sun, and you have 360 Tatvas rays that exist within your body, and you have 360 devas that exist in your body, because every Tatvas ray has a deva connected to it and have groups of devas connected to it. So we'll go over these groups of devas and this devic force so that you can understand that and understand how it all works and what the ancient masters was talking about when they talked about the devatas and devas and it's nothing but an energy manipulation. And it's an intelligence connected to the energy, and it's a race of people as two that chose freedom instead of free will. And we can explain this to you in a very logical way so that you can understand it. Did she explain what that was? Okay. Read the question again.
Speaking about prana, can you speak about the Amrit process and which stage of spiritual development it represents? I don't know what Amrit means.
Okay. Is she pronouncing that word or spelling it right?
No, but I looked it up.
Mm-hmm.
It's an initiation process that Sikhs go through. The Amrit ceremony of initiation and become baptized, take new names, and wear the 5Ks.
I'll go back to the question and see what it said.
Says Amrit, it says Amrit is a little bit like sweet fluid and a little bit like hot or cold air or ether. You start breathing all of a sudden when you are not disturbed.
You what? Stop breathing?
To start, it says Amrit is a little bit like sweet fluid and a little bit like hot or cold air or ether. You start breathing all of a sudden when you are not disturbed. It's something that is said to happen when a person is enlightened. He can taste this nectar in the back of his neck, the Khechari Mudra, where yogis roll their tongue behind to taste it.
Yeah, I know that. I don't necessarily call it that though, but there's several techniques where you can tap into this mysterious nectar. Hard work, hard deep breathing practices that you can use in order to get to those stages, because there's many initiation stages in this development stage, and it's hard to pinpoint each one. We can pinpoint the major levels and the major initiations, but there's many initiations through. If you come to me today and I give you a series of teachings in something that you never had before, and it takes you to a different level of understanding and awakening, that's an initiation. So and you would know this through, over time you will come to realize that it's an initiation. You may not know it then at that time, but that's the way it is. In your deep breathing practices, when you can control the flow of energy and tap into this energy through some degree of conscious control, where the mental part of you is controlling the breath and the energy, or the prana, or the 5 pranas on the breath, then you can experience the nectar, or the fluid of this. And you could feed the brain. You could charge both sides of the brain in a positive fashion. And the result of that is clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsensitive. So yes, that does happen, but it happens through constant practice. Through constant practice. Okay. And when I say practice on because the practice is just not the deep breathing. Is controlling of the mind, is controlling your behaviors, is resisting temptation on many levels, is because it's just not the deep breathing practice, but it's a way of life that you take on, as Sivananda points out in his development books, as Dr. George King lays out in his lecture tapes. Is there any other questions before we close out?
Where can I find more information on African mysticism? Is there an African form of Hatha Yoga?
Yeah, it's very rare books, but I tell you this right here, and most people don't realize this, go back to the Secret Doctrines of Madame Blavatsky, which was a Russian white woman, a duchess, that actually wrote the Secret Doctrines and the Isis Unveiled. It's all about the Egyptians, the Ethiopians, and various African religions that was prominent and that existed way back some 2-3 million years, which was during the days of Atlantis, and lasted throughout the 800,000 years when the earth was in ruins between Atlantis and the Kali period in which we live right now. So the Africans and the Asians, or China, especially China, their teachings survived longer than most other places, and of course the Hindus. So we have Madame Blavatsky's Secret Doctrines online and her Isis Unveiled teachings online. And anytime you study the Hindu teachings, those are African teachings too, as well. And you can clearly see that even in the Bhagavad Gita. So the Bhagavad Gita describes a race war, that of the dark Asian Indians versus the light skinned Indians. So just go back and look at it under that understanding. Any other questions?
No.
Okay, let's close out with a prayer.
Stuff. The New Lord's Prayer. O divine and wondrous Spirit, O everlasting Lord of hosts, send forth now through me thy great and lasting power. Allow me, Almighty God, the lasting privilege of radiating to all the world thy great love, so that those who suffer may be given the power and energy to rise above their weaknesses. Almighty God, in great humility do I ask you to send forth your power, to give to me this great lasting privilege of being a channel, so that my suffering brothers may be helped and guided and healed and lifted into thy light, so that they who know not may look up and in doing so receive to their higher selves your divine counsel. Almighty God, this day have you granted me a divine privilege. I ask you now to give to me the strength, so that never again will I turn from my inner vision of you. O great peace, great peace, great peace. In praise of your greatness, O God, doth my soul sing, granted energy to sing on forever and forever. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next week.